Welcome back to the online MOOC course on software engineering. This lecture will be learning on coding standards, code review and the tools that are being used for review and coding. So this is going to be the agenda. So we'll start with the basic coding standards and then we'll learn how code review are being done, and third we'll try to go for the various IDEs that are available, the integrated development environment, followed by the quality in automation. So first in coding standards comes your naming rules. So wherever we try to go for programming, the naming comes into picture. It starts from naming an identifier or a method, a function, class name, everything should have a meaningful name. So it is something like the identifier's purpose should be provided in the name. So say for example, as a basic example, if you want to identify whether a given person is eligible for voting, the main attribute would be age. So you can take the number, which is nothing but the age, in a variable and check whether the person is greater than the specific age and provide the output as either he or she is eligible to vote or not. So here, since age is going to be the idea with respect to whether he is eligible to vote or not, having the variable named as age is the better solution rather than just naming it as I or VAR or something else. Okay. So whatever purpose the identifier is going to have with respect to the project, the same name has to be given to the identifiers, being it any variable or class name or whatever. Okay. So the main advantage of using a meaningful variable name is that by looking into the code itself, we'll be able to understand better. Okay. So that is the main advantage, and this is trying to provide documentation also. So even without documentation, with the code itself, we'll be able to identify what the code is working on. Okay. So here there are several cases that have been available in literature, and these are some specific options. So the first one is camel case, where you will start with the lower case. So say for example, here we have username. So username is going to be the variable name. So there is two things, user and name here. So the first word is given in small case followed by some other word. Say here it is name. So that will start in a capital letter. Okay. So this kind of naming is called as camel case. So this is an example for a variable, and similarly as an example for a function or a method, there is something called as calculate total. So here also we have two words. The first word is calculate, which is in small case, and the second word is going to be in the uppercase. Okay. So say for example, if you have a big name, calculate total amount. So amount is going to be the third word, so that should also be in uppercase. So A should be in uppercase. So what we can understand is, whatever size it may be, the first word is starting with a lowercase and followed by any number of words, it is going to be depicted in higher case. So this is trying to provide us that they are different words and we can understand. So that is the main idea. And second is Pascal case. So here the main difference between your camel case and Pascal case is that, so here the first word itself, it starts with capital letter, okay, or uppercase. So everything is uppercase in Pascal. Okay. So this is the second method in which you can name. Third one, which is more widely used in Python and other languages in nowadays, so which we call it as snake case. So here it is up to the user for uppercase or lowercase, but they are differentiating the words by using a underscore. Okay. So there is a underscore in between all the words. Okay. And there is a fourth case which is not that much widely used. Instead, it is for constants and other main things that you have to distract from the other set of variables. So, they are in uppercase. So, as I said, it is mainly used for constants. Say if you have a value pi that is going to be used and that is not going to be changed throughout the program. So, that is going to be constant. So, those kind of things has to be differentiated from the set of variables that are going to change. So, for those we can use upper snake. So, snake indicates that you are going to use underscore. So, upper snake is nothing but upper cases, in between you have underscores. So, there are 4 different ways in which you can name. So, that is what is listed over here. So, mainly the snake case is used in Python, and whereas in Java and other languages which was a bit old, they will be using this camel case. So, again this is not a rule, but by using this it will make the application much more understandable and lessen the documentation. So, that is what is to be understood here. Second is for fast scanning through the project. So, when you give a particular set of code, it will be better if you use these formattings. So, one is the character line limit. So, if you have a program, say in a page, in a editor or whatever, you have to make sure the number of characters that you are going to enter in one single line, it should not exceed 120 character. Okay. So, which means that if you extend more than that, there will be a cursor at the end where you can move and come back, but it will reduce the readability. Okay. So, that is what is the main thing. So, we are trying to make sure that our code is going to be simple and effective, and it is much readable when you are trying to see it. So, this prevents the horizontal scrolling and it encourages concise expressions. So, if you have that much big code, you can very well modularize that into 2 or 3 lines and you can give much more readability. The second one is indentation. So, this is very important when you think in terms of debugging and visual understanding. So, normally this became a rule in Python, but earlier languages and all, it is just a sake of simplicity. So, if you start a particular class or a function, like I am giving the example here in Python. So, if you give a definition for a module, the next line will start after a tab. So, you cannot start in line with the definition itself. So, you have to give a tab, and if you are using an IDE, which is nothing but an integrated development environment, it will go by itself, or otherwise if you are using a very simple editor, you have to use a tab, otherwise it will throw an error. So, say for example, if your code logic is something written over here, we can very well understand from this indentation that these set of lines of code, which is LOC for short, this set of lines belong to this module. So, that is understood just by giving an indentation. So, when you try to give an indentation, not only in module, say for example, if you are giving an if condition and you want to say some statements. So, statement 1, if you give an indentation which is nothing but a space, normally a tab space, this tries to provide information that this statement belongs to this if condition, and this has to be executed when the condition is true. Okay. So, that is the idea. So, this is trying to create a clear visual hierarchy when making nested loops. So, as I said, your condition statements like if else, switch case, and loops like while, for and all will have this indentation, and those statements that has to be executed under that, if you try to indent behind that, it will be much more helpful while you try to debug or analyze. The fourth one is using consistent bracing style. So, we have 2 variations. One is KNR, it is given by scientists, and another style which is called as Alman. So some people they will be using say for example back in C programming we will be using something like this, meaning the brace starts in the next line after the function. So this is one method of having the braces. This later point of time in Python and predominantly in Java also, we might have used the curly braces near to the function itself and you will close after all the statements. So this is one methodology and this is another methodology. So those are nothing but your K and R and Alman. Okay. So it is both are equivalently good. So what we are trying to say in this rule is that if you select one, be consistent in using that through the entire software. You should not mismatch the formatting in between. Okay. So this consistency has to be maintained. So if you have any inconsistencies, it may cause some error. So with respect to different programs, say for example Python or Java or JavaScript or C language, there are separate guidelines. They are adopting different styles. Okay. So those styles are proposed in these tools that have been listed down. So Flake 8 is going to be the tool for Python and it is trying to identify whether you have given a correct style in your code. So correct style in the sense you have given correct spacing, the variables are defined correctly and you are not using the already available constants, all those things will be checked. So similarly, there is a tool called check style with which you can check the style in Java, and for JavaScript we have lint, a lint tool which is ESLint, and for C we have static analyzer. So this is a basic tool. So normally what static analyzer does is that it is also a tool, but before executing a particular code we will try to check whether it is having the correct syntaxes and correct formatting. Okay. So this is for your C language. So normally very mission critical system, or earlierly it was written in C and mostly it is predominantly using C language only, like automotive and aerospace technologies, and for them they will be using static analyzer. So that was about the coding standards. The second topic is on code review. So what exactly is code review? We are trying to check the code for error or the syntax mismatches, style mismatches, and try to provide some guidelines. So there are 4 different stages in the review pipeline. The first one is the self review. So by the name we can understand self is done by the author himself. So which means that the developer who is going to implement the code, who has already implemented the code, will be doing the review himself. Okay. So when they try to check their code, they will identify whether there are any errors or there is any problem in the style. Okay. So this is done by the developer himself. The second is automated checks. So this is new or this is in the later technologies, in the current technology, where we will be having this continuous integration pipeline, CI pipeline, where we have linters. So linters are going to be some softwares that are added that would be automatically checking the code that was written by the developer. Okay. So it will also have the test cases and it does all the security scans. So say for example, if the project has given a non-functional requirement as it should have a better security, that will also be considered in this linters. Okay. And also during the pull request. So if you have stored something in the centralized repository also, when you try to pull down and you are going to push it up, all the time this will do a automated check-in whether it is following the style and all the syntactic errors. The third one is the peer review. So by the name we can understand it is done by another similar person or with the same domain knowledge. So the team members, they will examine the logic, design and quality using a shared checklist. So they will sit together and they will identify whether there is any problem, and they will be having a checklist. And the fourth one is, sometimes after the approval, the code will be merged to the main branch, and this is often done by the author. So there will be the stages in reviewing. So even before the review happens, you do a self review by yourself, and then it goes to automated checks. There some linters will be there to identify the syntactic and other errors, followed by peer review, where you will go and check the logic and all the pain points within that corresponding software, and then we'll merge that software module to the main pipeline and check whether it is working perfectly with the rest of the modules. So what are the checklist? So in the earlier slide, in the peer review, we have understood that there will be a checklist, and that is the points we have to check in the code. Okay, so what they are going to check on? So they will be looking on functionality and logic. So this is the main thing. So forget about the non-functional requirement. Only if the functional requirement is satisfying, we can think on the rest. So functionality with respect to that module has to be checked, and whether the code is trying to do what it is supposed to do, whether there is any logic errors or any edge cases missed. Okay. So logic errors is very critical. That has to be checked whether it is working correctly or not. Okay. What are the edge cases? So edge cases are some test cases that we have to make sure that, say for example, if you are going to check for the age, I will take the same example. If age is greater than 18, you can vote. Okay. So sometimes it is greater than 18 or greater than equal to 18. Okay. So this is what is edge cases. You might work for all the samples which is less than 18 or greater than 18, but when it is equal to 18, whether you are going to check it or not. So that is missing the edge cases. Okay. So likewise, there are many other techniques also. We have boundary value analysis and many other techniques with which we can understand whether you are missing any edge cases or not. Second is the design and architecture. So we have understood many design diagrams and the architectures like client server architecture or centralized, decentralized, many architectures we might have understood. But whether this software has taken the correct option of design and architecture or not, based on that is the code is well structured or not. Okay. So whether it has the separation of concerns. Okay. So everything will be checked in design and architecture. So whether it is suitable for the problem. Okay. Third one is test and coverage. So here we will think in terms of testing. So once the software has been developed, we have to check whether the software is working fine or not. So that is checked by using or providing test cases to that corresponding module. So when the module works as expected, we can say the test is passed, or otherwise the module has to be redone. Okay. So here we are trying to check whether they are sufficient unit and integration test. So that it should not be a sample, it should have wide variety of inputs. And unit test cases is trying to check only a single module, whereas integration test is trying to check after integrating 2 or 3 modules and whether the pipeline is going to work correctly or not. And after integration also we have to check for this edge cases and other failure modes. The readability and style. So this is again very important. So even though it is not going to hinder the progress, after some time when you relook the code, it should be readable. Okay, so for that we have to make sure whether the project style guide has been followed and the naming conventions are being followed or not. So these are nothing but the checklist that we are trying to do. So apart from this, the performance and security is also measured. Okay, so when you say this comes under non-functional requirements, right? So once all the functional requirements are correctly given, we can go for this non-functional requirements. So here we are trying to think about the performance, so how much latency it has to provide the result, and how much security you are going to perform. Say for example, if you are going to use any database, it should not have this SQL injection attack or any other data leaks. Okay, so there should be a good encapsulation that should be given to the data. So only through the given methods you should be able to get the data. The data should not be public, or it could not be breached through any unauthorized channel. So if this is also been checked as part of our code review. Okay, so this is some of the things that each and every reviewer will check in a review meeting. Okay, so normally this review meeting will be a formal meeting and it will be comprising of a set of people. Okay, so this is going to be the formal meeting where there will be a set of people, they have certain roles. So one is called as the moderator, and second is going to be the author reader. Okay, and there are several other people. So here moderator is actually the very important person. Why? Because if a corresponding author and the reviewer has some clash in between, say for example they are trying to say there is an error, but if the error is very negligible or it could not be reproduced, that error is not considered as error at all. So any error should be reproducible. Okay, so if you are trying to have some clash between them, this moderator has to be there to leverage that corresponding arguments. Okay, so author is going to be the person who has actually written the code. The reader is a note taker who will try to point down what is happening in the review meeting. So there are several other people also, you can refer that. So as a reviewer, the main intention is to provide some feedback. So the feedback should be in terms that it should be understandable, and it should not be like providing information of how to clear that. Okay, so instead of just saying this is wrong and you have forgot to handle the null case or code is a mess, you can try to do or try to give feedback something like this. Okay, so should we consider the scenario where this might be null. Okay, so it is not harsh, but it is trying to give a feedback which is constructive. Okay, so instead of a normal function, why can't a recursive function be there? Okay, so likewise the feedback should be kind and it should be clear, so that these mentoring sessions are fruitful rather than a one-on-one session. So third topic for today is the integrated development environment. So here what an IDE is. So IDE is actually a unified portal where you can have many things. You can code there, you can compile there, you can debug, you can also do some version control. So many things are being done in a single platform, and that is what we call it as a integrated development environment. Like mainly when you need to code, probably we should need a editor to type the code. Second is you have to compile that corresponding code and you have to execute. Okay, so prior to an IDE, you will be having a normal notepad kind of an editor where you will not have this color codings and all, where we have to just type in and we have to save that in a hard disk, and then we will be having a compiler, and that compiler has to be available in the code installed, and we will be trying to give this code to the compiler, and the compiler will execute and provide a compiled file, and that will be given to the execution engine, and that execution engine will at runtime it will try to get some input if necessary and provide the output. So, this is what was happening before an IDE came into picture, but after IDE has entered the market, everything has come within the IDE itself. So, this has the editor, this has already have the compiler, the execution engine, everything, and you can also link any databases, all the everything that is needed to develop a software is available in an IDE. We can also do debugging also. So, everything is there with respect to your IDE, which is your integrated development environment. Okay. So, this is trying to say whether you have any errors, what is the runtime state, everything is been provided, and there is no necessity of context switching. So, earlier I was trying to say once you have done with the editor, you switch back to compiler and then switch to execute. If there is any error, you go back to your editor, do the changes, compile, execute. So, this goes on and it is a never ending task, but now everything is followed in the single tool and it is only one interface. So, what all services that are provided in an IDE? So, this is very important, syntax highlighting. So, normally just try as an example, go for any IDE whichever you are using and type a simple code and copy the same code in a notepad. Okay. So, the notepad will not have any syntax highlighting anything. So, here when you see the code with the colors of say public static void main, it has different colors. Okay. So, saying which is a constant, which is variable name, everything, right. So, this is trying to say in a very short time whether there is any error or not. Okay. So, say for example, the word public, if you miss a particular letter, it will not be showing in that indented color, so that you can just go and change that corresponding word alone, but that is not possible when you are trying to use a normal notepad. So, syntax highlighting is the first service. Okay. Second is incremental compilation. So, whenever you want to compile, okay, you can after doing a simple change, you can hit a compile and run button that is available in an IDE, but that is very not so simple if you are using the older approach. Second is code completion. So, sometimes this is also possible. So, some editors, if you just give PSVM, which is short form for public static void main in Java, and just give an enter, it will type as public static void main. Okay. This is going to help you in lessen the time that you want to just typing on. Static analysis. So, this I have told you earlier. So, this is just before runtime, we are going to check whether the code follows the syntax with respect to that corresponding programming language. Breakpoint. So, this is again a very important service. So, sometimes your code might not work as expected, but we will not be in a position to identify where exactly it is breaking. So, you can go for a breakpoint and check whether it is working till that corresponding time. You can save the values of the variables till that corresponding time. So, if the expected is not the actual value that you have acquired, you can very well say the error has introduced that corresponding time. So, this is available in your core services in your IDE. And the last one is plugins. So, even though this IDE has not given some features, if available, some plugins are in commercial world, and that also you can add that in this IDE and move forward. Okay. So, these are some of the services that are available in your IDE. So, we will be discussing on 4 different IDEs. So, one is Xcode. So, Xcode is available in Apple ecosystem. So, this is mainly having static live static analyzer. It is trying to check whether you have any memory leaks or if you have any retain cycles, any nullability violations and all. Okay. And second is the integrated interface builder. It is trying to provide design UIs and storyboards, and with which you can go for Swift UI previews and all. So, this is the best integrated development environment for Mac related OS. And next is your Eclipse. So, this is widely used for mainly in Java environments, and here the main features includes safe rename, extracting a method and moving the class across the packages. So, refactoring we have learnt earlier. Say for example, if you are trying to change a variable name in one location, if it is used in elsewhere in the program or in any other packages, the name will be updated as like you have modified without any problem. So, that is available in Eclipse. Okay, so sometimes extracting method is also another advantage in Eclipse, where you will you can automatically pass the necessary parameters from one method to another. And the third one is IntelliJ. This is also for Java. So, this can, in today's world, you can also generate code by generate code just like your getters, setters, constructors and other methods, and there are some live templates also available, and if there is any duplication, that could also be identified in your IntelliJ Smart Assistants. The fourth one is Atom. So, this is an open source editor where it is very lightweight and also it is powerful. So, it is having a rich ecosystem which has linting, formatting on save, and Git integration is also possible. So, Git integration is actually the big support that is provided in Atom. So, this is much like an advanced notepad. And there are VS Code editor. So, here in VS Code editor it has 80 languages support, and you can run in whatever languages that you can understand. So, this is a polyglot IDE just because it is allowing 80 languages. So, using these IDEs we can refactor without any fear. Okay. So, it has abstract syntax graphs with which we can understand the full impact of the change. So, refactoring is changing some things, right. So, we can identify and understand things and preview the changes. So, any changes, any difference that you have done, it will provide you the preview, and if at all, if it is wrong, you can go back at one click rollback. And you have GitHub code spaces also with which we can code in cloud. Okay. So, this is trying to provide code anywhere options, browser and a device, you can code at any place, and it is also facilitating real time pair programming where you can program with more than one people at the online. So, we have pre-commit quality gates also. So, like we have linting options. So, linting is trying to say whether you have given the correct styling as per the programming requirements. So, the code style, and it is also going to catch the syntax errors, and the unit test can also be done. So, this is mainly to identify whether anything is fundamentally broken within a single module, and as a non-functional requirement, security scans for identifying any secrets or vulnerability, you can also do the security scans. So, if any check fails, the commit is blocked, and this forcing the issues to be fixed much before. Okay. So, there are some tools like Husky which is going to make this easy. Okay. So, these types of tools are used when you are trying to commit something to the centralized repository, and this has also been used in the CI dashboards also. So, CI is continuous integration, where you can also say something about code quality. Okay. So, here we have SonarQube. So, SonarQube is one IDE or tool with which you are trying to rate the quality of the code. Okay, so when you have all the coding standards and all the review has been done to maintain the quality, you can have a very good grade like these things. Okay, and it is also trying to say about the code coverage and the open issues that are available. So basically this lecture is trying to say how you have to code and the basic reviews that has to be taken in a coding part. Thank you.